On today's episode, we're going to do a mid-season review of The Kenobi Show on Disney+. Going to talk about what I like so far, what I don't like. Also going to cover some respectful agreements and disagreements with others on YouTube and places like that, at least up to this point. Of course, this is a mid-season review. The final verdict hasn't been dropped, nor will it be here. And kind of wrap it up with what I'm hoping to see in the episodes going forward and how I'm hoping they're going to wrap things up to make this a satisfying conclusion to the series. Let's get into it. Welcome to the Way of the Dad podcast, where we fearlessly dive into the depths of dadness. If you like what you are hearing, please share the podcast and give it a review on the platform where you listen. Thank you. Hey everybody, welcome back. Thanks for coming back. Glad to have you here. So, I think it goes without saying that this whole Obi-Wan Kenobi show has really bunched up a lot of undergarments for people, and quite frankly, rightfully so. You know, the current leadership at Lucasfilm has not garnered much goodwill, if you want to call it that. Probably the only reason Marvel's still making fair amounts of money with their movies is because of the goodwill they built up over 10 years. Of course, that's starting to dwindle. But Kathleen Kennedy and her story group, you know, haven't really done much that has been universally loved. You know, I mean, when you think about the sequel trilogy, literally, by the stats, by the box office, that was an effort of diminishing returns, especially when people felt like, you know, hey, this story doesn't even make sense. You know, we go from one, you know, all these potential possibilities in the first movie to a literal U-turn and kind of, you know, go piss off in that general direction if you don't like this U-turn. And then a whole nother hard U-turn of sorts, trying to wrap it up with Rise of Skywalker. I mean, when I really think about the Disney Star Wars era, honestly, the only things I really come out of it that I just plain like, you know, not with hardly any qualifications, doesn't mean they're perfect or the best, but that I just really like them, was Rogue One and The Mandalorian. I used to like The Force Awakens until The Last Jedi came out and basically took all of those potential plot threads and story possibilities and just, forgive me, but just shit all over them. So now I really don't like Force Awakens anymore either. And that's not a perfect movie by any means of the word, but at least it left you with a lot of interesting potentials. So, coming into Kenobi, there's a lot that could go wrong here. A lot of people are very concerned about what are they going to do, and how do you do this without screwing up the canon. I'm going to go ahead and probably give some unfair, well, at least unearned benefit of the doubt, that's for sure, and say that they had to have figured that out already. But here we are, we're 3 episodes in. My understanding is the halfway point of the show. So, what's my one-sentence summary of the first 3 episodes? Quite frankly, so far it's been an uneven. There's been good. There's been not so good. And there's been just gigantic question marks. So let me kind of knock these out real quick. Pros are production values, thankfully, are higher than Boba Fett. Boba Fett looked like it was made on a shoestring budget until Episode 5 and The Mandalorian came in and it became Mandalorian Season 2.5. Ewan McGregor's acting is phenomenal. And I think we all expected to see that. And of course, we needed to see that. But it seems like he's been given plenty of emotional work to do in this show. And he's really chewing on it and enjoying it, really taking it and running with it. The actress they cast for the young Leia, actually, quite frankly, she seems, as a parent who has had at one time 2 10-year-olds, I have a 14-year-old, 13-year-old now, she's really good as a 10-year-old, kind of sheltered child, kind of also being raised with the silver spoon. Hasn't really been, her life's never been put in danger. Her life is super boring, and she thinks adventure's the most exciting thing in the world, kind of like Luke. But she's never been challenged. The most exciting thing in her day is making appearances and waving at the crowd, as she says. She mentions that earlier. I do like her, though. She is sharp, much like a Leia that would be, the kind of Leia you might expect as a 10-year-old, who hasn't quite learned to temper that tongue, but is still very perceptive and is still too blunt. She hasn't quite learned that diplomatic way of speaking yet. Vader's intro in Episode 3 was... say what you want about everything else about the show, but so far, they've gotten Vader pretty well right. It was awesome. It was terrifying, and he was absolutely brutal, like we know Vader to be. Really like the interaction the dynamic between Owen and Ben, or Obi-Wan, as far as their push and pull dynamic of what to do about Luke and what's in Luke's best interest and who has Luke's best interest really in mind. And then the actual the time there with Reva, where Owen is standing there trying to stand his ground without being confrontational with Reva. That Joel Edgerton is, we all know he's a really good actor now. He was pretty unknown when he originally played the role of Owen Lars back in, I guess that would be Attack of the Clones. So I really like how he kind of, stood his ground without, like I said, without being confrontational, because he knows he's just going to get hacked at that point. He's just going to turn into meat. I really like the feeling that they are creating of the Jedi needing to stay hidden, like they're on the run. Okay, and yes, there's definitely some John Wick Chapter 3 vibes there, where everybody has a picture of Obi-Wan and all the bounty hunters are searching for him, and I get that, but it's done really well and it works. But the whole time, he knows he has to stay hidden. He knows he has to keep his face hidden. He knows he has to travel as incognito as possible. And I really like that, because it's kind of a tables have turned type of situation where the Sith were the ones that always needed to stay underground or hidden or, not reveal themselves. So it's interesting now that's how the Jedi have to live, as opposed to just strolling through and, sometimes being respected and cheered, but sometimes, again, not being. Remember, they were a lot of times the arbiters, or the arbitrators, if that's what you want to think about. You think about legal discussions and arbitrations. They would come in, and if there was an impasse, they would just make the decision. Well, not everybody liked those decisions. So, I did like seeing the Inquisitorius HQ, and I do like seeing the Inquisitors in live action. It's something we've only seen in comic books and animated shows up to this point. So I like seeing that. Some of my cons real quick. The production values, while better than Boba Fett, are uneven at times. Vader's throne room did not look real. There's just an unnatural look to it. Maybe it's a lighting thing. Maybe it really was a real build thing. I don't think it was. And it doesn't look like they're using the volume, which is the video board soundstage, however you want to call that works so well in The Mandalorian. It doesn't look like they used the volume there. And if they did, then they just didn't do a very good job of it. It just looks a little fakey. The lighting looks off and wrong and weird. And then the Vader Kenobi confrontation, that looked like it was filmed on the extremely cheap. It wasn't terrible, but it definitely seemed like it's almost like they had to decide where are we spending our money, and, well, this isn't the finale, so we can't spend it here. It just looked a bit cheaper. I do find it annoying that the Grand Inquisitor's head shape is totally wrong, and, I mean, come on. I don't know if it's CG or put a prosthetic extra forehead on him. And so that way his head, which is round, if you just put an extra forehead on it, then it'll look, not round. It'll look, very long oval shaped, oblong. That just seems like something that would be easy to fix with a prosthetic. Or if he's not going to be in the show very much, doesn't seem like a lot of CG work to do. Leia's amazing escaping ability is phenomenally annoying and unbelievable. It always goes on just a little too long. It's one thing for her to give the slip for a minute or two, but 3 full-grown adults and a admittedly extremely rusty and dejected Jedi can't seem to catch her anywhere near as fast as it should happen. So yeah, I'm kind of done with Leia's great escape, and can we stop having her escape from things in such a way? I was waiting for her third great escape production at the end of episode 3 when Reva's obviously got the drop on her. I was waiting for her to be able to escape her too, because she should be able to, right? Just randomly run around things at an extraordinarily slow pace. But maybe episode 4 will we'll get another one of those. There's also a lack of, and I have this written down, I don't know quite the right word for it, but there's a lack of cinematic punch in the chase sequences. By that I do mean Leia's escaping sequences, but also when Reva's doing her parkour, pursuit thing. She's trying to close the gap between where she sees her and the action where she assumes Kenobi is at. There just doesn't seem to be a lot of punch. It looks very cheap and CW-esque. Like it's like, well, we can't make it look fast, but I guess we can try to make it look cooler, as opposed to just good. I don't know. I don't know what the term for that is. I don't know how you would fix it, because I definitely don't do that for a living. I don't make films or movies or whatever. And then the lightsaber fight with Kenobi, I don't disagree with the general choreography of it, as far as the way it was laid out, like storyboarded or whatever. But there's not much cinematic punch in there either. Again, that's where I wonder, is this where they saved money at? Did they decide to spend their bucks later? I don't know. It just doesn't feel right. And then the other big con I have, and this is a temporary one because this could be addressed, Reva's motivations are currently very unclear. And that is a little annoying. And I say that because I understand playing the long game and doing the slow burn on a character, slowly revealing their motivations, kind of building you up to an aha moment later. But they also haven't given us much to chew on, in the sense that you can narratively give hints that there are motivations. And I think they've tried to a couple times, but they land really flat, and they kind of seem pretty, well, quite frankly, you could blink and miss them. There's a couple times where, why is she so angry with Kenobi? Why does she hate him so much? You know, I guess we're supposed to think that she was one of those younglings that escaped Order 66, when the attack on the Jedi Temple. But again, it doesn't actually, they don't give us enough to really show that, oh yes, this is definitely Reva. Just a little connective tissue. Not much, just enough. And they gave you, none. There's absolutely no connective tissue there to work with. So we saw the sequence where younglings are running away and their master or their teacher is trying to protect them and get them to safety. And of course they, sacrifice themselves to save the children. And then it's not like it even opens up on a shot of Reva's face. It doesn't close in like on the younglings, and it closes in on the dark-skinned youngling that was there, and then it changes to a grown-up Reva now. That would be enough to tell you, oh, that was her. Okay, got it. That's it. And then we go on to something else. So, if I'm supposed to believe that's her, that was her, you've done a shit job of telling me that. And so, again, here we go. I don't know why she hates Kenobi so much. Does she hate Kenobi? That's another question. Or does she just really see Kenobi as her way of moving up the Inquisitorius? Does she really want to be the Grand Inquisitor? Does she really want to supplant Vader? And everybody, I know she made a comment about how she thinks, the actress Moses Ingram was doing a Q&A or, interview and talking about how her character thinks that she's better than Vader. All of them think they're better than Vader. They aren't actually, but they're supposed to. Remember, only 2 Sith there are. And these Inquisitors know that when there's no more Jedi left to hunt, well, who needs them? Because they're going to be the last quote-unquote Jedi out there to challenge them, right? So they probably know that their time is limited. They probably know that, and again, dark side users always think they're better than somebody else. It's like the most aggressive corporate ladder climbing you've ever seen. And everybody will absolutely stab you in the back with their lightsaber, or in the front in this case. Ha 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 ha. Sorry, bad pun, but they'll stab you, they'll cut you down, they'll do whatever they have to do to make sure that they come out looking great and somebody else is taking the blame or taking the fall or whatever to try to move up. I wonder, is Reva working for the Emperor? I don't know. Again, it's hard to say. And we haven't been given much indication that there's something not what it seems. That's what I'm looking for. Give me some reason to believe that her motivations may be not what seems, not what's obvious. Other than that one line after the 5th brother basically gives her a dress down after she thinks that she's going to run the show, and he shows her actually, no, he's much stronger in the Force than she is, or at least makes a display of it. Whether he is or not isn't clear, but he makes a display of it, asserts his dominance in the room of the Inquisitorius, and she says something like, you're going to get what you deserve, and I'm going to get what I deserve, and so will you. And she goes, I hope so. I hope so. Okay. No offense, that's a writing problem. I'm not going to land that on the actress. That's a writing problem. The writing has not given me much to chew on with Reva. As far as she may not be what she seems, there may be more to the story, there may be more into the surface, blah, 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 blah. You get what I'm going at? So that's a con that can become a pro, or at least become less of a problem later. And that's something I want to get into. I follow a lot of channels on YouTube. Overlord DVD, Geeks and Gamers, Star Wars Theory, Thor Skywalker. Because I want to check myself, what am I seeing and what are other people seeing, and did they see something that I missed? And right now, so some channels like Overlord DVD and Geeks and Gamers are very, very anti-Kenobi at the moment. And I understand why. Especially with Overlord DVD. He's very connected in the industry, as, a lot of people that are in the know that talk to him. There was a lot of leaks that this is going to be a bait and switch show with Reva really being the primary sole focus of the show, and, Kenobi and Vader being more secondary to her story or whatever. Which, if that does become the case, believe me, I'll be talking about that. But at this moment, I can only judge the show based on what I've seen, because I'm not connected. I don't know what went on in the production and what's going on behind the scenes, and is there a message being pushed in this show? Are they going to character assassinate Obi-Wan Kenobi and turn him do what they did to him with the way they did Luke Skywalker in Last Jedi? I don't know any of that. So for right now, I'm disagreeing with those channels. Not because I don't like them. I watch them all the time. They're, usually pretty good. But I don't always agree with them perfectly. But right now, Reva has not come across to me as the bestest ever. She actually gets shown up quite a bit. And it is interesting that they made a female a very, very, very aggressive, unlikable villain. And I do believe right now, I'm okay with that, because she's supposed to be not liked. Look at how the rest of the Inquisitors respond to her. They don't like her. I know the Grand Inquisitor kind of made a little speech about why they don't like her. And I know that's supposed to, I don't know what, give me pity in the future for her or something like that. Because she's, I don't know, wasn't with the silver spoon or something. I don't know. She's low beneath them, blah, 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 whatever. But none of them like her. And she does show herself as being overwhelmingly brash, overwhelmingly violent and aggressive. No calculation. Although she obviously did calculate enough to figure out that there may be a connection between Bail Organa and Obi-Wan, and so let's steal the senator's daughter and see if we can get Obi-Wan out that way. So there was some calculation there. But, she's ready to just chop some of these Jedi down without even bothering to interrogate them first. In that opening scene in the cantina in Tatooine, Grand Inquisitor is totally right. Sometimes a little fish can lead you to bigger fish. But as of right now, she's a very unlikable character on purpose. I'm not talking about the actress, I'm talking about the character. The actress is doing, as far as I can tell at the moment, she is doing the job she was hired to do, which is to play a very unlikable person, so unlikable that nobody likes her. The Inquisitorius doesn't like her. Owen doesn't like her. Kenobi really doesn't like her. Who does? That's the point. So far, that's the point. We still got 3 episodes to go. Unfortunately, there's a long way to go. And I might land hard on her at the end of this series, Reva, the character of Reva. But as of right now, I don't have a major problem. I don't think some of the writing has been the best for her. Again, I already, kind of talked about some of my issues. The character building hasn't been good enough for her. And I don't know that I see a character assassination with Kenobi. That's the other disagreement I have with some of these channels right now. Not so much Star Wars Theory or Thor Skywalker, but probably Geeks and Gamers and Overlord DVD at the moment. And again, we're only 3 episodes in. We're literally in... I know they said it was supposed to be 6 episodes. Maybe there will be 7. I don't know. They changed the episode counts. As of right now, this is not a character assassination in my mind yet. As of right now, this is the midpoint. And in classical hero arc storytelling, the hero has to be broken down. The hero has to be challenged and a lot of times fail badly. The hero needs to see how far he's fallen, or how outmatched he is, or how weak he's become. And in this case, I think that follows pretty accurately. McGregor's done a phenomenal job of really showing how broken, tortured, disillusioned, and how much of a shell of the former man he's become. I know he said it a couple times, but he's done a great job showing it in his face, in his posture, the way he handles himself, the way he carries himself and talks, and a lot of his nonverbal cues. He's done a great job of that. Now, He got his ass handed to him by Vader. He looked like an absolutely terrified, weakling of a man, which he is at this point. Nothing that happened in episode 3 was out of character. It was perfectly in character. He literally just found out, not even a day ago, just a handful of hours ago, that the person he thought he left for dead, he thought passed away, no one could survive that, right? That's what he thought. Not only is he alive, but he's even worse. And then he sees it. And that Vader walking down that alley, just yanking people out of their homes, snapping their neck with the Force, choking them, just being absolutely brutal, it was properly terrifying. And it was, and when I said it earlier, it was awesome. It was definitely one of my pros. But you see Obi-Wan's reaction to it. And he's seeing the person he used to consider a brother, the man that he trained from a small boy, and tried to give him everything he could, even if he was not up to the task. Even if Qui-Gon would have been a far better teacher for Anakin, he poured everything into him. And to see his failure he already felt like a failure before, right? Now he's visualizing his failures even far worse than he ever imagined. Because he didn't know Vader was alive. Because he had shut himself off from the Force. This is the way I read the show. Everybody asks this question, how did he not know? You're on Tatooine, one of the most backwater of backwater planets. This is not a hub of information. He lives in a cave out in the desert. And he goes to town once in a blue moon, and he acts as a butcher for, I'm assuming that was maybe a crate dragon or some kind of a large creature where they're basically making sashimi. But it's not hard to figure out that he's out of the know, So that's okay. He doesn't go to cantinas. He doesn't intermingle with people. He literally goes to work, takes a little bit home for his EOP, gets his money, and occasionally, from a distance, looks in on Luke. I mean, that's what he does. So I'm good with that. But now he's seeing Vader, his greatest failure, he thought died. Now he sees his greatest failure has not only lived, but has become a far greater failure than it already was. Far greater than when he saw Anakin, just absolutely mowing people down. Mowing Jedi down at the Jedi Temple, his family. Obi-Wan's family, and Anakin, what he perceived as Anakin's family. And Anakin's just mowing his family members down. So, he has to process this all right now. And so now he tries to do the heroic thing by letting whatever the lady who was, posing as an officer, or actually was an officer, for her and Leia to get out of there, run and escape now. I'll lead them away. But he's absolutely petrified because he feels the darkness of Anakin. He feels the rage. And he sees one of the greatest Jedis he's ever known murdering people. People who didn't even do anything to him. He's just randomly murdering people. Doing it, and then of course Vader's doing that because he's trying to see if he can feel Obi-Wan in the Force. He's basically just doing this randomly to see if he can get a reaction out of Obi-Wan to zero in on him. And then of course the fight scene, Generation Tech YouTube channel did a really good video on this. Why is it that Vader seems so much more powerful than Kenobi when they were pretty evenly matched 10 years ago? Well, he talks about, and if you want to, please go to his video. It's a really good video. I don't want to give you a reason not to watch it. It's really good. But with all those prosthetics, he weighs a lot more right now. That suit, it's like it gives him some extra heft and weight. And then of course his strikes are different now because he's not as agile and nimble as he used to be. So now he's got a lot more of a power strike. like, a power attack type of lightsaber form that he uses now. Not to mention, Kenobi is really out of shape. Not just in the Force. He's really rusty there, we know that. That's been established. He could barely keep Leia from falling, when he would have done that with half of his attention or less before. But he's out of shape. He hasn't been training. He's been living in a cave, cutting up meat. His body has gotten older, 10 years older, but it's also gotten a lot weaker because he hasn't been training. It's one thing when you train to keep your body in shape. Yes, you get older and you get a little slower, but it won't degrade anywhere near as fast as if you just stop. I can tell you, firsthand. I used to do Taekwondo, and I was nowhere near the best or most acrobatic or flexible. I mean, I started Taekwondo in my mid-30s, so, not really the best time to start Taekwondo. And, between the fact that I'm pretty short, I'm 5'4", not flexible, head kicks were a problem, right? In sparring and things like that. I had to do a lot of trickery to pull off a head kick. I had to really set someone up to make them think that I was going way low before I could, get their guard down to get up there, because I had to commit everything. There was jump and everything to try to get a head kick in. Okay, I haven't done Taekwondo in 4 years now. Make no mistake, if my old place opened back up, it would take a while for me to get anywhere near back to what I was. That'd be months of hitting it hard to try to get that flexibility back. So your body, when you're not training, it really degrades. So I didn't have a problem with the way that they choreographed that fight or structured it. Vader should have plowed through him. And of course, Vader's toying with him, much like Vader toyed with Luke in Empire Strikes Back. Vader could have killed Luke in a minute if he wanted to. But Vader's toying with him. And remember, we now know Vader also knew that was his son. So Vader's toying with his food. He's playing with his food. It's like a cat who has a field mouse or a chipmunk totally cornered, nowhere to run, can't get away, and it's just toying with its food before it decides to kill it. I did like the effect of Vader trying to show Kenobi, what it felt like to burn and all that stuff. That was really, that was tense. I do think the way that Kenobi got away was really cheesy. Like, come on, set up something better than that. Make it so that it really does look like, make it so that it exploded and it knocked Vader and the stormtroopers down, and maybe even knocked Vader out for a short period of time so that they could get Kenobi and get away. Some kind of an explosion. Nothing that means that Vader's, a wussy, but something that totally catches him off guard, something he didn't expect. Instead of just igniting that thing where it causes a lot more fire, because he just used the Force to put fire out. Think he can't do that again? So that could have been written a lot better. And maybe it's one of those things where Vader's willing to let him get away a little bit, because as far as he's concerned, this is going to happen. And he's patient. And that's the thing with Vader. We all know that Hayden Christensen was Anakin, the earlier Anakin was much more impatient. And the Vader we see, especially in the original trilogy, is very patient. Now, I don't know about the comic books and never watched those, so you can quote me about those if you want. But I don't see a character assassination at the moment. I see Obi-Wan at rock bottom, which is 3 episodes in. If there's 6 or 7 episodes, we're about half point. That's supposed to happen right now. Going forward, and this is where I'm going to wrap things up. Going forward, I need to see Reva's motivations become much more clear. I need to see why she hates Kenobi so much. What is she really gunning for? Is she really gunning to be the Grand Inquisitor, or is she really gunning to actually replace Vader under Palpatine? Because it wouldn't surprise me for any of those Inquisitors to think that they're the one, they're better than Vader. The Emperor just needs to see how good I am. I'm way better than Vader, because they all know that eventually they're going to be cast aside. And I mean, chopped up, killed, murdered, whatever. So I need to see her become a much better fleshed out character going forward. And I need to not see it be all about Reva. I will say, I am very happy that she has not had an extraordinary amount of screen time. She's had enough being the quote-unquote main bad guy at the moment, or the main villain. Okay? It doesn't surprise me that she's on screen at least a fair amount. But I do feel like this has been largely about Obi-Wan and Leia. So I'm good with that right now. I do need to see Kenobi start to gather himself together. It's time to, cue up that 15-minute Rocky training montage and get back into shape. And I hope he finds hope, strength, finds his redemption, or some kind of self-redemption, or forgives himself. Maybe that's what we're looking for. He needs to forgive himself. If he can't forgive Vader, it doesn't matter what Vader does, but he has to forgive himself. I hope he finds his self in the Force again, and of course, they keep teasing the Qui-Gon angle, which I'm very much looking forward to seeing that. Do need to see the Leia plot hole sealed up, and I mean airtight. So there was already a plot hole before this show with, it's like, okay, so how did Obi-Wan forget about Leia when, he was literally there for the birth of the twins? And he literally knows that both of them are, Anakin's kids and could very well be very Force sensitive. And he was there when Bail said, "I'll take the girl. We've always dreamed of having a baby girl and we'll keep her safe." Okay. And then he forgets all about her in Empire Strikes Back. Totally forgot she existed. I don't buy that. But 20 years in the sand and the desert, and he maybe forgot, right? It was a plot hole, though. Now the plot hole is absolutely a chasm. I mean, this is the Grand Canyon-sized hole. So I need to see narratively how he not necessarily didn't forget her, but now maybe how he figured, I don't think she's not going to be the one. Maybe she doesn't have the Force. Because, Obi-Wan's already explained, or at least implied, that he had a brother. Well, and his brother didn't get taken by the Jedi. He did. So maybe his brother wasn't Force sensitive. Maybe not all offspring are, right? So, but really need to see that plot hole get closed up. And then I would love to see cameos from other important characters in this time frame. I'd love to see Captain Rex or Captain Cody. I wouldn't mind seeing some of the Bad Batch in, real life. Who else would be hanging around this time? I mean, and they've already name dropped Quinlan Vos. I'd love to see Quinlan Vos in reality or in live action. I don't know if they would do Ahsoka. I know they're filming Ahsoka, but I don't know if they would do Ahsoka because what would be the point? Maybe Ahsoka's the one that helps him figure things out, but that wouldn't work because then Ahsoka didn't realize until like 5 years before. What in the Rebels series, it started 5 years, so like maybe 2-3 years before A New Hope, she didn't realize that Anakin was still alive. So, maybe some of the Rebels crew, like Harrison Dula, or couldn't do Kanan. No, you actually couldn't do any of those because they didn't know Obi-Wan was still alive. So that wouldn't work either. You could do a cameo by Maul, but that would just mess things up, really. I'll put in this one because I know my son will absolutely just be like ear-to-ear grin. He's a massive fanboy. Maybe even Cal Kestis from the Jedi Fallen Order game. That wouldn't be bad. So that's what I'd like to see. Right now, I'm okay with the show. I do have my gripes with it, but it's not It's not terrible. It's pretty good in some areas, and it's questionable currently. Halfway through, it's questionable in certain areas, although those questions could be satisfactorily solved or resolved. I'll be honest with you. I hope that if any of you know the Overlord DVD channel, I hope he's wrong. I really do. I'm tired of seeing bait and switch. I've already had videos on about that before, or not videos, but I've already had podcast episodes about that. I'm tired of the bait and switch crap. If the show is named Obi-Wan Kenobi, it damn well better be mostly about Obi-Wan Kenobi. So far, it's still qualifying in that regard. So, but I hope he's wrong. We'll see, I guess. So, that'll about do it. Thanks again for listening. Please let me know what you think in the comments. I'd love to hear your opinions. And as always, YouTube channel, Rumble channel, podcast, virtually all the places you get podcasts. I think the only place it's not on is Stitcher. I don't know why, but I know that it's not there as far as I can tell. But I really, I'm going to ask a favor of you, anybody who's listening, please share. Liking and subscribing, absolutely, please do that. If you like what I'm talking about, or you think I'm absolutely the biggest idiot you've ever heard and you just want to listen to me for comedic effect, I don't care. But please share the episodes with your friends on social media, whatever. It would really help. Really helps this podcast grow. Helps me to be able to spend more time doing it. Currently working on creating a bit of a more treated studio, because right now I have to pause every time someone drives down the street or Amazon Air is doing serious business over my house, or at least near enough that I can hear the planes. So, trying to set up an area where I can record a little more quietly. Still planning on doing the driving episodes from time to time, but I'm still trying to work out the happy medium between the background noise and my voice, because when I try to cut out the background noise, it makes my voice sound like I'm really far away and really hollow. So just still trying to work that out. But I appreciate all your support, and hopefully the next few episodes of Obi-Wan Kenobi go really well. We'll see. That'll about do it for today. And until next time, take care and have a great day. Thanks for listening. The Way of the Dad podcast is produced and recorded by, well, me, a stunningly average husband and father, who appreciates all of the likes, shares, reviews, and support you give. If you would like to reach out, you can find the podcast on its Facebook page, and of course you can email me at wayofthedadpodcast@gmail.com. Come back next time as we continue to fearlessly dive into the depths of dadness.